Hey there, thank you for joining me for this extremely special episode with Carol Burnett. Now, per Carol's request, it is an audio only podcast. However, I've decided to add some pictures and stuff to keep you visually interested. So please enjoy the podcast and understand that this was a request from Carol, and so I'm honoring that. But please enjoy the podcast, and here we go. From the heart of Hollywood, it's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show with Patrick Labyorteaux.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux, he's the one you gotta know.
Tonight's episode, Carol Burnett.
Patrick Labyorteaux Show, he's the one you gotta know.
Act 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary, one and only Carol Burnett. Carol, thank you for being a part of the show.
Oh, thank you, Patrick, for asking me. How are you, sweetheart?
I'm doing great, and I am thrilled that you are here. How have you been? I've just finished watching Palm Royale, and I want to talk to you about that.
Oh my goodness. Well, right now we're into the second season.
I was going to ask. That's so exciting because obviously they leave on a big cliffhanger, and let's just go and talk about that right now. I want to go back to it, but since we're talking about that now, as a big fan of not only yours, but of comedy, you do something on that show, which is, I think it's amazing. You steal a show with all of these amazing actresses while you're in a coma. How did you do that when you're preparing as an actor, because your character's in a coma for like the first 4 or 5 episodes, yet you're still hysterical. And then when you do kind of, spoilery kind of information here, when you do kind of regain consciousness, you are freaking hysterical. How was that experience for you?
Well, you know what? It really wasn't difficult. I was just having a good time, lying there. I tell everybody that, you get up at 5 o'clock out of bed, then you go to the set, and then you get made up, and then you get into your nightgown, and then you go right back to bed. So that's what I did for the first few episodes. But also, when Norma, my character, is in a coma, I also imagined that she could hear, so that my reactions to what was going on around me gave me a way to just kind of look, make facial expressions. So I was really just reacting to the scene. And then when the character starts to come out of it, when you've been in a coma, I looked it up. Sometimes people, they try to talk, but what comes out is gibberish, So I asked our director, I said, they can't write gibberish in a script. What are you going to, except to say you're going to do gibberish? So right. I said, he said, well, try to say what you're trying to get across, not just make syllables, but know what you really want to say, but that you can't really do the words. So that gave me my intent, so that when Kristen Wiig said, "What do you think I should do about my husband?" my thought was, "Well, you should leave him," but I couldn't really say that. But my gibberish came out, and so the thought of that was behind it. So I just had fun. They let me. You had to improvise it because you can't write those syllables.
No, but what was so amazing about it, and you're fascinating me, because that's, to me, one of the things. I have an acting school, and this part of this acting school, and I tell the kids, when you're acting, there's a thought in the back of your head that comes out the front of your face, and that's literally what you just explained. Where if you're listening, then you have reactions, micro reactions on your face, which played wonderfully. But the whole gibberish thing led to, like, my favorite moment of the entire show was when that first conversation between you and her, and you're frustrated, and then you curse in gibberish, which I can't explain it other than that. But it to me, it's a masterclass in comedy, and obviously,
oh, thank you.
You've got the bones. You've got obviously you're Carol Burnett. You know what you're doing. And it's so funny when you see someone like yourself who knows what they're doing. And Kristen Wiig knows what she's doing. She's amazing. She's so talented.
Oh, she
And
is so wonderful. And I'll tell you, when they first called me, Patrick, to would you like to be a part of the be in Palm Royale? The first thing I said, well, who else is in it? That's the first question I asked. And they said Kristen Wiig, Allison Janney, Laura Dern, Leslie Bibb, Ricky Martin. I said, don't go any further. I don't even care what you want me to do. I want to get into the sandbox with those people and play. And so I said, yeah, I'm in. And then they sent me the script, and that was the cherry on top of the sundae. And so that was really fun. And now the second season, you kind of get to know who Norma is, and there's a mystery about it, which I can't reveal. But we
of course, but they
find
lay
out,
that out very nicely in this first
right?
season.
The cliffhanger is that she really is not Norma. She is somebody named Agnes. And so that's what we find out in the second season, how Agnes became Norma.
Now,
So
are you going to be, obviously you're going to be you get to have a lot more vocalization in the second season, I
oh
would
gosh, yeah, I've got tons of dialogue. It's not as easy as just going in and lying down in bed.
Well, let me ask you, you
yeah.
mentioned that you were impressed with the list of actresses, which of course, and yeah, of course you would be. How were you aware of Kristen? Do you sit around and watch Saturday Night Live and
No, I really don't. But what I did was I had heard about her from friends saying, "Oh my God, this girl is just fantastic." So I YouTubed Kristen. So there were all these sketches that she was in on Saturday Night Live, and I thought, "Oh my goodness, this girl is just amazing." And also the last episode of the first season, when she has her nervous breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Remember at the
oh my gosh, it's an amazing monologue that just is a tour de force.
Unbelievable. I said, talk about a master class in acting. Had this been a movie, she would have been up for an Academy Award.
Agreed. Yeah, did you get to watch on set? Did you get to participate?
Oh, I was there. I was in the wings because then I had to come out for the final shot. When Ricky got shot, and
right.
And it all ends on that. But I watched her, and she had to do it like 2 or 3 times. And
oh my gosh!
Each time she nailed it. She was just incredible. And plus, as talented as she is so sweet. She's just an absolute. Well, they all are. And Laura Dern, bless her heart. I've known her and her mother since Laura was a kid. And so, and I haven't really had a big scene with her, but I have one coming up in the second season, and there's a big secret there, which I can't reveal. And it's really a lot of fun. And I have more scenes with Laura and more scenes with Allison than I had in the first season.
Allison Janney is also another killer on this Murderers Row of comics that just, you guys, it's such an enjoyable show.
Yeah. And Allison and I, we've become very close, and we, do you know what Wordle is?
Oh yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Allison and I Wordle every morning.
That's awesome.
Wordle, I guess, is a verb now. To wordle.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I know that, at my age, I still, when I hit a set, when I walk onto a set, I still have the tingles of like how exciting it is. Do you have something similar like that? Because it's a magical thing, right?
I'm not only tingly, I'm a little nervous, even after all these years. you just want to nail it. You know, you don't want to keep anybody waiting. You want to know all your lines, and you want to give them what they want, but also be comfortable with what you're doing. And as we were talking before, one of the important things, and I remember hearing this years and years ago, that was a quote from Spencer Tracy, that wonderful actor.
Oh, wow.
And they said, "What's your advice?" He said, "Hit your mark, know your lines, and listen."
It's great. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it goes exactly to what you were saying about even if you're in a coma, the whole idea of acting is reaction. I tell the students that, there's so much white blank space on a page because you're supposed to think of that as listening, and the rest of it is your
Yeah.
dialogue and everything. But that it's all about the connection between people. And you've had such a varied career where we also talk about tone, and like when you're on stage, your audience is many feet from you, whereas when you're on television, the camera's closer, and when you're in film, it's even closer, so your tone changes. We'll be back after these messages. Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. And I'm very excited to announce that we have a brand new class called Adult Weekly Class. Now, what is that? Now, that's a class that'll meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and you come in and you have an hour-long acting class with other students. It's very, very simple, very, very fun. So if you've ever wanted to be an actor or try it or just mess around, these classes are great. So the Adult Weekly Class is going to be every Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific. Now come and check it out. It's going to be really fun. Go to workingactorschool.com. Check out the website. You can sign up for the class there. If you need any other information, there's a phone number and an email on the website. You can get it there. And we would love to have you come and try. Talk to you soon. Act 2. What is your favorite tone and area? I mean, you've done all of it, and I'm sure that each one is different, but do you have one format, whether it's stage, film, television, that you really like?
I think it was when I did my show. It was television, but also it was theatrical. We did what I wanted to do was a musical comedy review every week, and the studio that we were in at Television City, CBS, Studio 33 was my favorite venue because it was like a little theater. The audience was below the stage, as opposed to some of those studios when you tape. They're the bleachers and they're looking down. In a
three-camera show, they'll come into a regular soundstage and build out like a stadium seating where they're above you, as opposed to your theater setup.
I never liked that. So Studio 33 in television was like a little theater. And so the cameras were never in the way of the audience. So they were looking at us as if we were a little Broadway show. And it was, so we played it that way. And the cameras were to the side so that they were not, as I say, obstructing the audience view of the live actors. And then there were two cameras way behind the audience, for long shots. And we did it just like a Broadway show. I never wanted to keep our studio audience waiting. So we taped our show, we taped about an hour and 15 minutes because I did cute questions and answers, and then we would maybe 10 or 15 minutes worth, and then we would cut it down before for the air show. And we would, I used to make a bet with the stagehands that I could do a skin out costume change faster than they could move a couch across the room. I did not want to keep my audience waiting. And so as a result, it was kind of like a live show. Even if something went wrong, if a a microphone, a boom came into the shot, I didn't want to stop. I wanted to keep going. I didn't want to lose the momentum that the actors had. And so our audience saw a full theatrical production in about 2 hours, just as you would if you went to a Broadway show. So we were always out in time to take our guest stars to dinner. So it was.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like yourself, I worked with Carl Reiner on a movie, Summer School. He directed us, and he had very short shooting hours. And one of us asked him, why are these hours so wonderful? And he goes, because we're just doing a movie or a TV show. It's just a movie. And it's like he saw the bigger idea. Same with Michael Landon for Little House. It was he got home for dinner. And it seems like you guys, the pros, understand about the life balance of when you're doing a show versus having a life. And at that time, I guess you were having a life.
I remember, Patrick, I did a guest shot. I won't say what it was on because I don't want to knock the show, but it was a sitcom, and I was a guest. And at one point, we had pre-taped an 11-minute segment. So out of a half-hour taping, we only had about another 11 minutes to tape because the audience could then see the rerun of the previous thing we did. 5 hours.
Oof.
5 hours to tape 11 minutes. Because the writers, I don't know, they just kept rewriting. And the audience was sitting there,
Right.
And then the poor comic, when we weren't shooting, would get out and try to keep the audience warmed up. And they even, get this, serve pizza to the audience. To keep them there and keep them happy.
Them. Instead of giving them a show, they gave them a pizza. It's hysterical.
Yeah, and I just thought, this is insane, And the star, I won't say who it was, but she was so sweet. She never complained. And I thought, oh, my God, I would just say, excuse me, we're going to do this, and we're going to be out of here in an hour at most.
Yeah, it sounds to me like what was wonderful. I mean, my experience with your show as a viewer was you felt that energy. You felt the energy between all of the players that you guys were together. First of all, you guys were a team. We'll be back after these messages. Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. But we also teach kids. We have a great class called the Youth Weekly class that's every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And it's for kids. It's for like 10 to 17. And we have a great group of kids right now, and it is ongoing. So if you know someone that wants to get into acting and has never done any acting but would love to try, why don't you have them try starting off with Youth Weekly? Just go to workingactorsschool.com and check us out. It's Youth Weekly every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Act 3. What was your favorite and least favorite part of having your own show?
Oh, gosh. I don't think I had a least favorite part. My favorite part was when we were actually doing it in front of, we did 2 shows on a Friday, the dress rehearsal, but we would tape it. And then that would be like around 5:00 in the afternoon. Then the audience would go home and we'd make notes and maybe a few changes or cuts, and then have the air show audience a new one come in around 7:30, 8:00, and we'd be out of there, as I say, in 2 hours. And so what we would do a lot of times, especially when Tim Conway was on, he would do the show the way we'd rehearsed it in the first show. And then he would go to our director and say, did you get all the shots and so forth? yeah, then he would ad lib and do stuff on the second show that he came up with, which is why sometimes you saw us trying to keep it together and not laugh.
Right.
And so I know that there are times when we've been accused of always breaking up, but that was not the case. We did 270 some odd shows in 11 years. And I think as far as cracking up or breaking up, we didn't do it more than maybe 15 times out of 270 shows. And
Right.
it was mainly because Tim would get on a roll and do stuff that we'd never seen before. But we would, and I would say, okay, let's show that because it was gold, and so that's what, and people remember that and they think it was delicious. But again, it was not as often as people think, accused us of doing.
Well, you've had so many wonderful experiences, and as a kid actor, just because I was in the business in the '70s, as a kid actor, I had a chance to work with some really crazy, talented megastars like yourself, Lucille Ball, Mel Brooks, Jonathan Winters, Carl Reiner, Howard Morris. I worked with Tim, I worked with Lyle, and all of these people have this great sense of humor, as well as you do. How important do you think that is in real life to have that, to have a humorous aspect to your disposition?
Well, it certainly helps. Sometimes I hear about people who, especially sometimes comedians, like so many of them have had tragic backgrounds or what, and they're tortured or whatever.
Right.
And I know some are, and I feel sorry for them because they're not really having as much fun as they could have, but maybe they'd be that way if they were plumbers or shoe salesmen. I don't know.
You seem to have had a lot of magic in your life with
yes.
You tell the stories of the money that sent you to college appearing out of nowhere, the wonderful benefactor who sent you to New York. Where do you think this magic, or do you believe in a higher power, a guardian angel? Do you believe in anything bigger?
There's something bigger than all of us. I remember, Patrick, when I got the chance to go to New York, my college friends, I was a sophomore at UCLA, gave me a going away party. Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, what are you going to do when you get to New York? And this youthful, naive person, I said, I'm going to be in New York and I'm going to do a Broadway show, and it's going to be directed by George Abbott. George Abbott was Mr. Broadway. He was the musical comedy director that did Pajama Game and Damn Yankees and on and on and on. And he was it. And that's what happened. There was things that happened to me that were just out of the blue. So I had to think, I've got an angel on my shoulder or what, but thank you, whatever it is. Things happened to me that I never expected.
Well, I'm going to push back just a little bit. Yeah. Not to say that this magic doesn't happen. However, with the rehearsal club review that you put together, with Once Upon a Mattress, finding another theater once they closed, and you pulling the trigger on your own show at CBS, you took action. It wasn't like you were just waiting around for stuff to happen. So how is that a part of your life, as far as when you, as an actor, how important do you think drive is, and how that's a part of your life?
Totally. And it's not to drive at somebody else's expense at all. I just, what a lot was what my grandmother and I would go to the movies in the 40s, and they were kind of my savior, because I didn't have a rough home life. We were poor and all, but it was not ideal. So my escape was the movies. And so when I got to the rehearsal club and all, and some agent said, let me know when you're in something. And I said, but how can I get in something if I don't have an agent? and you can't get
Yep.
an agent unless you're in something. And he
Hollywood
said, go put
paradox.
on your own show. Yeah. So I went back to the rehearsal club and I said, we're going to put on a show and have all these agents come and see us, because they always say, let us know when you're in something. And that came from my background of watching Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland in the movies that they did in the 40s, where they were these two kids who
Let's
wanted
put on
to
a
make it
show.
on Broadway, and they would put on a show. So that's where I got the idea. And so many times I would think about the movies. They were always, especially when I was growing up, they weren't cynical. The good guys
Right.
made it, the bad guys didn't. It was always hopeful. The musicals were my favorite. So I kind of lived a little fantasy life. And when I went to New York, I never was afraid that I wouldn't be able to put food on the table and clothes on my back.
That's a
So
wonderful
naive
point of
and
view, though.
hopeful, and yeah, pardon me?
But naive and hopeful, yeah, I hear that, and that's very humble. But also, when you say it too, not to anyone else's detriment, but you, I believe, have this incredible drive for doing things, not to take over the world or do anything like that, but to be creative. I mean,
Yeah.
from your experience on the Gary Moore show to your own show to
Yeah.
pushing forward with the other theaters and everything, you made these things happen. We'll be back after these messages. Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. Now, besides classes, I also offer a one-on-one session. It's an hour just between you and me working on a particular piece of material, whether it's for an upcoming audition or maybe you're working on something and you need to have that breakthrough moment. These are really, really fun, and they're really, really great because they're really personalized and intense in all the good ways that intense can be. So if you're working on something, if you want to break through, if you want to have a one-on-one session where you're not working with other people, this is the way to do it. All the information is in the classes page on workingactorsschool.com. Act 4, questions. Now, I know that we are almost out of time here, and we have a thing. Part of the show is the questions at the end. And this show,
dear.
and this it should be easy. There's no gotcha questions, just really, really fun questions. The first one is called That's Showbiz, and that is, what is the most Hollywood moment in your life?
The most Hollywood, what?
Yeah, like the most,
What
like
was it?
the most Hollywood moment in your life.
I think getting Once Upon a Mattress, because I had said, when that I was going to be in a show directed by George Abbott. And so this one time in New York, I was up for another show called Babes in Arms that Richard Rodgers was going to show again. It had been an old show on Broadway, and they were going to take it to Florida, and it looks like I had a part in it. And the director wanted me, but then he called and he said, Carol, I'm sorry, we're going to go to Florida to break it in, but they want to have a name. I did not have a name. And so I was really disappointed. And no sooner had I hung up the phone when it rang again, and it was the producers of a little show called Once Upon a Mattress. And they said, we're auditioning. Could you come down now to the Phoenix Theater and audition for George Abbott?
Oh,
Well,
my God.
I got on the subway. I went down. I auditioned, met Mr. Abbott, got on the subway, came home. Phone was ringing, and I had the part. Now, had I gotten the other part, I never would have gotten Once Upon a Mattress. So I think that's a Hollywood moment, if there ever
For
was
sure.
one.
A Hollywood moment on Broadway. I love it. The
Yeah.
second question is, that's Showbiz Part 2. What's the most embarrassing Hollywood moment?
Embarrassing. Oh, The front page, when I did that, I was terrible.
You're so funny. You weren't terrible, but you didn't feel like it was the right part for you, or it just didn't fit or something.
I thought it was the right part, and Billy Wilder, come on, and Jack Lemmon and all. But I was nervous. I was so it just didn't. And so after it was released, I never wanted to see it because I knew how awful I was, and I certainly did not get good reviews and so forth. So now I'm on an airplane going to New York, and oh my God, the movie they're going to show was the front page on the plane. And the steward, at that time, they called them stewardesses. She said, oh, and we're going to have the movie, and one of the stars is with us today on the flight.
Oh,
Miss
no.
Burnett, and everybody turned around and smiled and waved. And I thought, oh, no, oh, my God. So now the movie starts and everybody pulls down their shades. And I just couldn't watch I was terrible. The movie ends, everybody puts the shades up, and nobody turns around to smile. So I went to the stewardess, and this is when you could do it. I said, could I just have the microphone? I'd like to address the passengers. And she said, oh, okay. So, I mean, you couldn't do that today.
Right.
She gave me the microphone, and I said, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carol Burnett, and I would like to apologize to each and every one of you for my performance in the film you just saw. And they burst into laughter and applause.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
I felt cleansed, Patrick.
That's so funny. Yeah. The next question is, show me the money. What was your biggest missed financial opportunity? I'm not looking for numbers or any details, but did you have something that was like, oh, if I had only blanked?
No, I did not that. But an interesting thing is when I got Mattress, my agent at the time, because my salary for Once Upon a Mattress was $80 a week. Okay. And we were only going to run 6 weeks because it was a theater where they would have just 6 weeks running. And then I forget the name of it. Anyway, and I said, but then he said, but I can get you a job in Las Vegas for 6 weeks for $1,000 a week. Now,
whoa,
add that up, $1,000 a week as opposed to $80 a week. Yeah. And I turned it down. I said, no. I want to be directed by George Abbott in Once Upon a Mattress. And had I taken the other one, Mattress would have never happened for me. So that was
wow. That's a great answer. It's the biggest missed financial, but probably the best choice of all. The project
absolutely,
that opened you up.
Because then what happened? We continued to run in Mattress for a year. And
then that led you to the Gary Moore Show, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, the next one is Showdown, the best and the worst. The best thing you've ever done, the worst thing you've ever done. I think you've already explained the worst. What's the best thing you've ever done? Your opinion.
I think overall, my show.
Yeah, of course. That's a great choice. Yeah.
So.
What was do you have a favorite moment or episode of that show?
No, it's like I have so many. It's very difficult. I mean, one that everybody talks about is coming down the stairs is Scarlett O'Hara in the Gone with the Wind takeoff.
Yeah, with the drapes and the drapery pull.
Yeah, and that was Bob Mackey's genius, our costume designer.
We'll get to this in just a second. We worked together on Eunice. How did the Eunice sketch originate for the show? Where was that grown? Why?
That was when we were doing my show, and the writers, Dick Clare and Jenna McMahon, wrote this sketch about this dysfunctional family. And at first they wanted that I would play Mama, but Eunice spoke to me for some reason, And I just, my mother, bless her heart, she had a little bit of Eunice in her because she had dreams that never materialized. Although my mother
Right.
was quite beautiful and a little more, and certainly more sophisticated than Eunice, but it was the angst that drove me to want to play Eunice. So then we thought, well, okay, we'll get an older woman to play Mama. And it was Bob Mackey, our costume designer's idea. He said, oh, let's just put Vicky in a fat suit and take her eyelashes off and put her in a wig and let Vicky be Mama. She was 24. And so, and then Harvey, of course, was Ed.
Uh-huh.
And then we started to do it, and I thought we should have those Southern accents because it reminded me of a little bit of Tennessee Williams and,
Yeah.
because there were no jokes in it. It was all character.
No. I remember
No
when we
joke.
first met, when I first met you, I explained to you, which is still true, that when it would come on, I would run from the room because I didn't get it. And it made me uncomfortable because it was a family fighting. And only when you're on the other side of it do you understand why it's funny. But as a child, I was terrified of it. Kind of last question was it's called the Patrick Labyorteaux Show, which is the name of the podcast. And so this session is Show Me Some Love. Why did you fight so hard for me to be in Eunice?
Because you were good.
I appreciate that. Just a little background.
no other
I
answer.
auditioned maybe 6 or 7 times for this thing. What was the,
as far as I was concerned, no, as far as I was concerned, you only had to audition once, but that was Disney. They just had to keep doing it, so that's why you had to audition so many times.
Well, God bless you, because it was one of those life moments, career moments, to be able to work with you in such an iconic character. And
Thank you, Patrick.
it was a shame because as far as I understood, the show was affected by the writer's strike that was happening that particular year. Everything was ready to go. They had the scripts, and then it just didn't happen after that. But my experience with you on that show changed the way that I looked at the way I worked, comedy. I ended up going to the Groundlings because of you. And I just, I ended up doing a TV show called Jag, which was like this military show. Don Belisario, the guy that you worked with on Magnum, he produced that show. How did you end up on Magnum? Was it just because you lived there?
Yeah, and I knew Tom.
Okay.
And I knew Larry Minetti, and they said, "Would you like to get in the sandbox and play?" I said, "Yeah." So that's what happened. Yeah.
Epilogue. So, is there anything that you want to do that you haven't done in life? Besides being on this show, is there anything that you haven't done that you still are like, what I'd really like to do is blank?
Not really. But I never know. When Palm Royale just came along out of the blue. But I think, I kind of want to be behind the scenes a little bit. And we just sold a series to Apple TV Plus based on the Rehearsal Club.
Fantastic. That is such a great show waiting to happen. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's good. Oh, and there's one other thing I have to plug. I'm just thrilled. Do you ever watch TCM, Turner Classic Movies?
Yes.
I love it because I'm probably one of the few viewers who have seen all these movies first run. But so I ran into at a function a couple of months ago to one of the hosts of TCM, Dave Karger, and my husband said, "We've got an idea." TCM sometimes they'll have the interviewers or the hosts interview Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg or so and so, and they talk about their favorite films and then they show them. I said, what if, for instance, I come on and I'm talking to Dave Karger, and then I talk about Mildred Pierce, okay, the Joan Crawford movie, and they would show the full Mildred Pierce, come back, we'd talk a little bit more, and then they would show our takeoffs on Mildred Pierce.
Oh, wow. That's so great. That's
So
a
they
great
bought
idea.
So they're going to be doing it. They call it Sundays with Carol, and they're going to do Gone with the Wind and our takeoff, Mildred Pierce, Double Indemnity, The Heiress, Born to Be Bad, which was Joan Fontaine, Short Song, A Double Life that was Betty Davis. So there are like 7 of them they're doing with showing the full movie and then afterwards showing our send-up.
What a fantastic show. I can't wait to watch. I honestly love all of those movies. And of course,
movies, yeah.
your show was the one show that I grew up watching. And again, loving because it was totally accessible, very, very funny. If you had to recommend one performance of yours that summed you up as a performer, and I know that that's not fair, but it's a good question, what would it be?
Oh, honey, I can't answer that. Early on, it would have been Once Upon a Mattress. But there's so many different sketches and things that that's kind of impossible. And one last thing, though, I get many times I get the question of how do you deal with rejection?
Right.
When you're auditioning for something and you think you've got it and you don't.
Yeah.
I remember early on when I was in New York, I can't remember what it was for, but there was something that I had read for, and it came down to Another Girl and Me. And I thought I had it, but I didn't. She got it. And Patrick, what saved me from being depressed, I don't know where this came from, but it's my advice to anybody that goes through that. What came to me was, you know what? It was her turn. It wasn't my turn.
Right.
So my turn, if I work hard enough, will come. But right now, I didn't get it because it was her turn. And that saved me from being depressed.
What an amazing piece of advice. Thank you so much, Carol. I love you so much. You've been such a huge part of my life, and I'm glad that I was just a small part of yours. But this was wonderful. People have been asking to hear from you, so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, my love to you and your family.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. I'm really, really glad you're here and checking out the podcast. It is an audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's a video podcast over on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you get the video ones. All of my socials are Working Actors School on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Please check us out. If you want any information about the school, it is at workingactorsschool.com. We've got classes going on all the time. And again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.